Good morning. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here today. I'm really excited to welcome you to the first of maybe many Melrose Art Summits. I have been in so many conversations over the last many years where people said to me at some point, I wish we could have an all-hands arts conversation. And here we are. Yay! And I'm really excited to be here with y'all. Jen and her team and Chris have put together a fantastic program for today, so let's get ready to have some fun. I'm Jenny Rayburn. I am a Melrose artist and member of the Melrose Cultural Council. And before we get started, I just want to go over a few things to get you settled and comfortable. First off, we are wearing masks today for safety, but if you need to take a mask break, you can go outside, step outside into the lobby. You can also step into the back rooms. The Wi-Fi password is CHAI. Hi, sorry, thank you. 2020, so that's CHAI 2020. If you need any assistance hearing the speakers or seeing the screens, you can reach out to Linda Apple. Where are you? Oh, right here at the front. She'll allocate a volunteer to assist you. The bathrooms are located into the back and to my left, so your right. And if you need to get up and move around, or if you need a water break, there's some refreshments here to the side. And again, you can go take your mask off and in the back and just take a stretch. Lunch is going to be provided at noon, and we have noted dietary requests. And is there anything I forgot? Yes, thank you. There are name tags on your table, so please put on a name tag to help everybody know who you are. Okay, so our schedule for today begins with disorientation and introduction and overview to how we came to be here today. We're going to have a guest speaker from the Creative County Initiative. That's Karen Rubenstein. She is actually going to speak about the initiatives in Essex County, which are a regional voice for arts and culture. That's the Creative County Initiative. And then we're going to break out and have vision topics and discussions at our table. So you may have noted that at your table there is a discussion topic. And I believe there'll be an opportunity to switch seats once you've gotten settled to sit at a table where there's a topic you're really passionate about. But every table is important. Then we're going to share back our vision ideas to the greater group. There'll be lunch at noon. In the afternoon, there'll be some action planning and breakout sessions. We'll share those back, and then we'll close at 2 o'clock. I would like to introduce Betsy Garrett, who is a writer and art supporter. She is a Melrose resident and a passionate champion and ally for Indigenous people of Massachusetts.
Okay, I'm going to read the land acknowledgement. Melrose, where we are meeting today, is located on the ancestral lands of the Massachusetts tribe, the tribe of Indigenous peoples from whom the colony, province, and Commonwealth have taken their names. We pay our respects to the ancestral bloodline of the Massachusetts tribe and their descendants who still inhabit historic Massachusetts territories today. One of those descendants created the beaded necklace shown here. The artist, Thomas Greene, is a descendant of Chickatawbut, Sachem of the Neponset band of the Massachusetts tribe of Punkapog. All of his jewelry is custom made to order. If you are interested in purchasing a piece, he will ask a few questions and then create something that is unique and meaningful to you. Go to his Facebook page to learn more. Facebook.com/thomas.greene.31.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to see so many of you here. I think this is an amazing event, and I think we're going to generate some great ideas today. So my name's Jason Webb. I'm the chair of the Melrose Cultural Council. I also play violin in the Melrose Symphony Orchestra. So I'm happy to be here. We just want to take a moment to acknowledge the events that are happening in Ukraine right now. You can see a couple of the events that are there in terms of support for Ukraine, and there's additional information that's provided through the mayor's office on this. Also just want to acknowledge the beautiful art there from Alexandra Birch. I think just for me, at least, with the events that are going on with Ukraine and kind of the struggle for democracy that's playing out there and globally, I feel like democracy really needs a sense of empathy, and I feel like the work that we're doing here today in terms of supporting the arts, and there's no better way for me to become empathetic with other people than through the arts. So I think the work that we're doing here today is actually fundamental to the struggle that's happening here in there in Ukraine and globally. So please do what you can to support people in Ukraine. I just want to take a few minutes also to thank all of the people that have put this together. I think it's clear that this event would not have come through were it not for the amazing leadership and organization of Jen Leclerc and all of the amazing and all of the amazing volunteers that are also listed on this slide here. So I just want to acknowledge the work that they've all done in kind of bringing all of this together. Also, just thank you to the Melrose Cultural Council, the Messina Fund for the Arts, and the Melrose Rotary for funding this event, providing funding. Thank you to MMTV for filming this event and making it available to other people. Thank you to Karen Rastubin of Essex County Community Foundation for giving us your insight on the work that you've done in your community. Thank you to BT's Backyard Barbecue and Theo's Pasta for feeding us. And thank you, Jose Allende, for your beautiful music, as we all heard when we were coming in here. And thank you, Mayor Broder, and our elected officials, Representative Kate Lipper-Garabedian and Senator Jason Lewis, for your service and being here to acknowledge this important work. I'll hand it over to Maggie now.
Wow, Jason's much taller than me. Hello, everyone. I'm Maggie Moore-Abdow. I am the chair of the Melrose Messina Fund for the Arts. I'm joined by my colleagues today, Mark Morgan, Peter McSherry, and our other colleague in arms, Gina Timtessa, wasn't able to join us today. So applaud to those. And also our founding chair, Nancy Kakura, who we'll be talking about a little bit later, right before lunch. So the Messina is an arm of the city of Melrose. It is funded through the annual budget. We are a granting facility, an arm, and so and it's a rolling deadline. So if you are an organization, an individual artist, you have the opportunity to do a very easy application and apply for a grant. We work closely with the Melrose Cultural Council. We've always done that through our history, but we're really, during this time, deepening that partnership. This is an example of how we're doing that this summit today. So we're really excited to be having this conversation with you. We're staffed by volunteer residents, those that I introduced to you in the beginning, and I think that covers it. So innovative arts projects, small arts, the only thing that we don't specifically fund are school-specific sponsored projects, but everything else, come. We want to see your application. I look forward to talking to all of you as the day goes on.
I just want to highlight a few things that the Melrose Cultural Council has been working on in the last year or so, and it really focuses around diversity, equity, access, and inclusion. You can see we are really working to actively encourage applications that address diversity, and in fact, we've seen a 64% increase in funding to Black, Indigenous, and people of color artists and projects, so that's really terrific. We are working in partnership with Messina. We're bringing a variety of voices to the table, including students from the high school, including Ruby, who's going to speak later and do some introductions. But this is about building capacity, bringing new ideas and experiences to the table. And to that end, we're ramping up on our communications and outreach. We have a committee that's working on bringing more and more diverse stories to everyone through social media and our communications from the Melrose Cultural Council. We had a fantastic event last fall called Pitch Perfect, which was introducing the Melrosians to what we do and increasing the number of people at the table so that we could have better discussions and more discussions, and just generally strengthening the Melrose Cultural Council as a resource to you. And a lot of what we talk about today is going to help us focus in on what you want and what Melrose needs so that we can be of better service and do great things in the future. All right. Jenny, I may ask you to do this. Okay, great. Well. Is Ruby here? Oh, there she is. Come on, Ruby. Sorry. Thank you.
Okay. Hello all, my name is Ruby Robichaud and I'm one of the student representatives on the Melrose Cultural Council, and I'm here introducing some of the facilitators and guests today. Today we have Jen, obviously, who is the arts administrator and project manager and who has really pulled this together like very well, as well as Chris, who has stepped up and is a wonderful, wonderful person who has really brought a lot of... I'm the one in the middle. As well as our program director here today, who is part of the Essex County Community Foundation and Creative County Initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. So one of the things you might notice is that there was some false advertising. We were supposed to have a woman named Emily Bargava from the Connection Lab and the Beautiful Stuff Project as our meeting facilitator. Emily is stuck in Mexico with COVID. So Chris and I have, now you have us. If all else fails, I do know how to tap dance, so we should be fine. So thank you, Chris, for working with us on that. We just want to get a show of hands. Also, I can no longer remember, as much as we worked on all these slides, I totally don't remember a thing of it anymore because I'm so tired. So everything that's going to happen is as much a surprise to me as it is to you. We all want to know who's in the room. So we're in the arts. So show of hands, show of jazz hands. Who works in Melrose? I know we all know you live here. Who works here? Who is in the visual arts in Melrose? Who is in, and you can be more than one of these things, obviously. Who is, raise your jazz hands if you're a musician. Yeah, raise your jazz hands if you are a performer in theater. Awesome. Raise your jazz hands if you are a supporter and appreciator and lover of the arts. Yeah! Raise your hands if you're just here for lunch. Okay. Okay. Oh, writers! Oh my God, writers! Raise your hands if you're writers. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. All right. Go ahead. A lot of you have asked, what are we doing here today? What brought us here today? So a couple of things. I don't know if everybody noticed as much as I did, but the world really turned to the arts especially when we were in lockdown for COVID. Social media was never better. We were seeing really cool people doing really cool things and people starting new things, starting new projects, starting to learn new art forms, etc. So one thing that's important, next week will be 2 years since Melrose shut down. I know we've lost Melrosians. I know people have been sick. And all of you creative people, thank you for keeping the creative lights on for Melrose over these last couple of years and being our lifeline. And I'm really happy that we're all here today together. So all of our thinking about this started about 18 months ago, and I want to give a shout out to Arlene Frasca. Where is she? Arlene is the former chair of the Cultural Council, and she asked me a while ago about cultural districts. What happens if Melrose does a cultural district? So what we needed to do for that, we needed to look at the state requirements for that. We needed to look at we studied other towns. We've spent about 18 months studying other communities and other towns. Who does this stuff well? And what are our arts and cultural assets in Melrose? Assets is a wonky term, but what are our arts and cultural assets? So we have an amazing array of arts and cultural assets. We have Melrose history, thanks to Jim Bennett for really bringing that alive over the last couple of years. Go ahead. Go ahead, Linda. These are fast. We have an amazing array of artists and arts organizations. A lot of you are here. Go ahead. We have robust cultural assets here in Melrose and community assets. And we also have a lot of creative businesses that are really part of our brand here. It's also a good time to welcome Stephanie Nelson and Lauren Gremeck. Lauren will be our new economic development director. I'm going to call it creative economy director from now on, actually. We're going to talk about changing that title. And Stephanie Nelson, if she's here, is the new, there you are, Stephanie, is the new director of the Chamber of Commerce. So everybody make sure they're taking copious notes. This is what it looks like when we map our assets in Melrose. We have all of this. This is all of you creative people and more, and our creative businesses. So it's exciting to see. Okay, but why is this important? One of the things I noticed as we were studying the cultural council thing, we said, all right, the cultural district thing, we said, all right, we need to put this aside for a moment because we have all these assets, but there's no sort of managing partnership. There's no single group, entity, city department, person, whatever, whose sole mission is the care and stewardship of our arts and cultural assets collectively. And that's important for some of these reasons. First of all, it's a requirement from the state. So we're putting districting aside for now because we need to do this capacity building work first. This is important because it opens up new opportunities for newer funding, bigger pools of funding, bigger collaborations, new opportunities for diversity, inviting new artistic voices, community building, tying the arts into our economic development priorities, and creative planning and placemaking and social infrastructure. So all of these things are important and can happen when we work collectively. Okay, go ahead, Linda. So one of the things we did, we had to do, like I said, we had to do a lot of research. So we looked at what other communities are doing and what they're doing well. These are just a few examples. There's, Natick has invited artists to some of their traffic calming initiatives. The gas station up there is in Natick. There's busking. They have a welcome center. The knit yarn bombing is out in Shelburne Falls. So there's a lot of interesting stuff happening. Go ahead. This is interesting too. This is a map from the Barr Foundation. Karen Rastubin, who we're going to hear from a little bit later, or soon, works up in Essex County. The Barr Foundation is the major arts funding organization, family foundation in New England. They have an initiative that works with county-wide foundations throughout Massachusetts to support their work in strengthening their arts and cultural sector. We're here. The white area, Middlesex County, is the only county that doesn't have that sort of infrastructure and support and that funding. So it's really interesting. We always talk about Melrose being a hidden gem, and we love it for all those reasons, but we sort of have to pool our resources together and sort of work for ourselves together. Coming together will make all of your work easier, we hope. So our mission for today, the overall sort of goal, is to formalize and build underlying support and capacity for a vibrant, diverse, inclusive, sustainable arts and cultural sector in Melrose. Does everybody agree roughly with that goal? Sounds good, right? Okay, go ahead. Oh, so at this point, I'd like to invite Karen Rastubin. I've been studying her work a lot to talk about what they're doing up in Essex County. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you, Jen, and thank everybody for having me here. Oh my God, it's all about you guys. It's really all about you. You're bringing the chamber together and all of these different groups, and you've got such a great base laid already with the asset mapping that you've done. You know, I'm just completely impressed by what I've seen in the last, 10 minutes. So anyway, I'm Karen Rastubin. I am the program director of the Creative County Initiative for the Essex County Community Foundation, which, as Jen pointed out, is one of the investments that the Barr Foundation has been making for the last 5 years across the state. The Barr Foundation has been investing in arts and culture, the environment, and education for many, many years. 5 years ago, they invited 5 community foundations with regions of their own to invest in their regions in partnership with the Barr Foundation as a test to see whether community foundations were a good conduit for this kind of work and this kind of support. And so they chose 5 community foundations out of the maybe 17 community foundations across the state to do this investment. So we've been working as a cohort with those other community foundations for 5 years. And when we first got together, the director of the Essex County Community Foundation said to the Barr Foundation, sure, we would love to have your $500,000, which it was at that time. That first investment was $500,000. We'd love to have your money, but we wouldn't know what to do with it because we never have done anything in arts and culture before. The Community Foundation had never had that as a field of interest fund or anything else like that. So they put together an advisory committee, and I was part of that initial committee 5 years ago. And we did some surveys of the groups and artists in Essex County, which is basically 34 communities north of Boston. And it's the whole Merrimack Valley from the Andovers to Salisbury and all the way down to Saugus and Nahant and Lynn. So we have inner cities, we have gateway cities, 6 gateway cities, and we have urban, suburban areas, rural areas, and the coastline. So it's an incredibly diverse range of people, 800,000 people who live across Essex County, and an incredibly diverse population between, the cities and the, very wealthy communities. So we've got this, socioeconomic diversity, racial diversity, and all of this stuff, and a lot of artists and arts organizations who were feeling underserved back 5-6 years ago. So the next slide, I think, kind of shows what our challenges were. We did surveys, we did some focus groups to say, if we get $500,000 from the Barr Foundation, how should we invest it? And so what we learned was that there was inequitable access to the resources that did exist around the county. Not enough opportunities for artists or creative gig workers and groups, lack of integrated planning for any of this work to be done, and the vision, the value proposition wasn't seeded properly. Like the value proposition for arts and culture in communities wasn't broadly accepted, known, and embraced and supported by all sectors. It's always been supported by us in the arts sector, but business community and municipal community was not investing. So, arts and culture wasn't considered as core to community, integration, community vision. So the next slide. So this is what we found. Our approach in the last 5 years has grown a lot. It's been a real iterative process. We tested some things out for the first couple of years, and what we have come to now is basically a systems approach, and this is core to Essex County Community Foundation's DNA at this point for all of its community-facing work, is trying to change the systems so that transformational change and mental models about why arts and culture are important to communities, so that change can happen. The other changes, the other systems, when we talk about systems change that come into that, are systems of the policies, practices, and resources, the stuff, the money, the spaces, the places, the programs, the stuff that makes us all able to do our work a little bit easier. And then the relational change, the people, all of the people who, and the relationships that can be built along the way. This is pretty abstract stuff, I understand, and it's kind of hard to understand, like what does this have to do with me? What we have found in having this as our basis, as our kind of like our basic structure, is that every single thing we do has a place in this. We can say, all right, this has to do with people connecting. This has to do with trying to make better policy around, live workspaces in our communities, that kind of thing. So it gives us a place to kind of like lean up against in everything we do. So the next slide, I think, shows what we do. So this, and if you want to learn any more about this, creativecounty.org is our website. So that all of this is on there. So basically, this kind of breaks it down: structural, relational, and transformational change. And this kind of like, summarizes all of it. So what we do now all starts with a C, so that we can remember what we do on a day-to-day basis. So we have convenings, we do capacity building, we do communications, we do cultural planning, we do collaborative grants. All of those things have come about in the last 5 years. We have a steering committee of about 25 people who I lead on a monthly basis, and then we have the staff of the Community Foundation that helps us with some things, like the financial backing of all of these things. What we have done, though, collaborative grants, and just a snippet about each one of these programs that we have built over the last 5 years. The collaborative grant program, we started out very early on saying, if we're going to increase the support for arts and culture in our region, we need to have a cross-sector approach to that. So our collaborative grants that we've given out, $25,000 to $30,000, we've got about 10 or 12 of those out in a couple of different phases. We required there to be an arts or culture partner, could be an individual artist or an arts organization or a cultural group, and somebody from the city or town, and somebody from the business or corporate sector. They had to be committed to this public art project or place-based, project in their community. They had to all be behind it and firmly committed to it. So we required that cross-sector-ness, right, to access the funding. Cultural planning, oops, that's all right. Cultural planning, we started in the first couple of years. We had convenings like this of all of the planners in our region, all of the municipal and city planners, and as many town administrators and mayors that could come, and arts people together in the same room to talk about what cultural planning means. You've already started it with your asset mapping that you've done here. That's really the first step. And then you get together with stakeholders and say, what does 3 to 5 years look like? What do we want to accomplish in 3 to 5 years? And you make sure the city's behind it, and you make sure the business sector's behind it, and you make sure that all your arts groups are saying, yeah, this is good. This is, we can all get behind this as a thing. There are many, many examples of cultural plans. Worcester has one in place now that it did just a few years ago. They're implementing it now. So we've started that in Essex County by introducing the concept to our planners and city people. And now some of those, and we've done some asset mapping up in the Merrimack Valley. We're going to continue that in partnership with MAPC, Metropolitan Area Planning Council, and the Merrimack Valley Planning Commission. Those two regional groups are working together because they have all of our Essex County communities. They're working together to do a digital map that we can all share and contribute to. And we're doing some one-on-one, we have a cultural planning consultant who's in several of the towns in Essex County now working with key stakeholders to start their local plans. So that's well underway. So that's an exciting project. Communications and media, if you look at our website, thecreativecounty.org, we've developed that over the last year with support from Mass Office of Business Development. They had a regional, they had a grant program. We got some funding from that. so look beyond arts funding, you know, look beyond, this is small business development and recovery, you know, through COVID. There was a grant program, so we tapped into that. They paid for our new website, and we're creating a better digital space with a Vimeo channel and some support, technical assistance and support, so that your, you know, the artists' work that's being done in the digital space have a place to be and an umbrella of support for that. So that's the communications and media that we're doing. Capacity building, we have a series of, we partner with Assets for Artists, which is out of Mass MoCA, and they partner all over the state to do workshops for individual artists of all genres. And so they're our main partner for capacity building workshops. They do a fantastic job. They get the great speakers, they do all the registration work, and you could tap into those as well to bring them here. The other thing we've done is created a new, started new last year, a leadership support program. So people around Essex County who are in the creative sector who want to deepen their work in at the intersection of arts and community in some way, as you know, as leaders, and probably many of you fit that category. We're providing now a cohort-based leadership support program for them. We started it last year, and we're just about to start a second cohort this year for those leaders. So that's been really, really exciting. And then convenings. We're having a major summit. It'll be our third major summit this coming September 30th. You're all invited to it. It'll be at the Cabot in Beverly, and it'll be in the morning. It's a Friday, and we'll have a series of speakers, and it's just a way for people to get together and learn with each other and do what you're doing here. So I can't stress the power of convenings enough. And that's what you as these groups can do. So those are the programmatic things that we do to serve our goals of systems change in all of this. That's like the nutshell. So I'm happy to answer any questions, and I have some cards that I'll leave on this table if anyone wants to contact me. And anyway, I think that's it.
Outstanding. Thank you very much, Karen. Where are you at? Okay, because Karen said that she's got some business cards, and we want to, you know, mob her with questions, right? Thank you for raising the bar. See what I did there? But let's actually put our money where our mouth is, right? Okay, so we got a lot of content here, and we're trying to absorb it. Take 15 seconds to breathe for a second. How are we cognitively processing all of that content that took you to aggregate, you know, how many years with how many people? How are we going to get to that place and beyond by this afternoon? That's not, that's not the goal, right? So we're going to lower the bar, see? Lower the bar a little bit to get to a place that's going to be a bit more practical, a little bit more close to home, all right? So we're going to push you a little bit out of your zone of proximal development. We're going to develop you to be able to express your skills, talents, assets. We'll put those in the room, and we'll be a little bit closer. As Karen mentioned, we've done a lot of great work so far, you know, with our asset maps, all right? There's a lot of tangible stuff that we've done already. Let's keep that momentum going. We did a lot of geography lesson here this morning, right? Maps, landscapes, you know, all that metaphor and analogy. But what does it mean in substance? We're going to get a little closer to that, right? We're going to bring the abstract into a practical space in this room. Then we'll launch right back into abstract, and we'll bring it right back into practical, right? Because it captures all kinds of minds, thinkings, approaches, skills, assets in the room. It also considers what we headline this experience to be about: diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. Now, when we're talking abstractions, there are so many abstractions about what that means. What is diversity? Is this diversity? You know, what's accessibility? Well, you know, we had some friends that wanted to come right into this space this morning, and we had to make sure that there was a door unlocked to the ramp. Now, we have ramps, but if the door ain't open, all right? So that's what I mean about practical, dotting I's, crossing T's, all right? So we're gonna go in that place. Holla if you with me. I'm Christopher Robinson. Insert all the A.A. Milne, Winnie the Pooh jokes that you want to. Fine, it's brought me to this place. I am also a credentialed facilitator, a certified facilitator in a methodology called Lego Serious Play. What are we going to be doing here? A lot of grown folks in here, and it is not TBS, you know, mid-morning for the Tot Shabbat. It ain't, but who's in this room? My colleague, Jen, could you help me? Yeah, I mean, we're forgetting each other's name. I have some little buckets right there on your left. One per table, please, if you can hand that out. While Jen's going around helping pass those little buckets out, feel free, as I'm speaking, to get your hands soiled with Lego. There are actually buckets on the table. Get your hands soiled with Lego. Yeah, start the chatter. You can feel free to contain your attention toward what you're doing on the table. I will continue to project my voice. We have some instructions, all right? Oh, yes. Again, the task is rooted in why we are here. In a moment, I will invite Jen back up here to do some redundancy. This is going to be like church in the temple. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you what I told you. And then after I tell you what I told you, I'm going to tell you what we just heard that I just told you. Okay. So it's again, why do we do this? We did turn this into a service just now, didn't we? Okay. We're doing this especially, it's magic, baby. Christopher Robinson, Winnie the Pooh, it's magic. That's how it happens. And you got magic in the room too. Again, the reason why we're doing is this way in terms of redundancy. We're giving each other several different communicative opportunities to express ourselves and consume information. Many of you don't know each other. You do not necessarily know how you cognitively process information or how you express yourselves optimally. So we've given you several different ways, tools on the table in our redundancy and how we present for you to be able to express and consume our information so that we can get to those goals. All right, so everyone's attention at the room. In about 2 minutes, what Jen is going to do is frame in a linear way what we're trying to accomplish, and then I'll instruct you as to how we're going to do that with the tools, instruments, and assets, your brains, minds, your expressive capacities, and the artifacts on the table will get all of these things accomplished like we promised. Go ahead, Jen.
Amazing. Oh my gosh, he's amazing, and woo, there we go. Quick logistically, Maggie is walking around to add some prompt questions to the table cards. But I just want to, before we dive into into Chris's work and your work, I just want to go back to that 30,000 feet view of sort of all collectively what we're doing. So again, this is just a draft. This is what we sort of will come to together. But when I think about everything that we've learned here today and all the amazing ideas that we're going to steal from Essex County and apply here locally, a vision for today: access to creative experiences for residents and artists. Establish Melrose as a creative and supportive place where diverse artists from all over come to present their work. You've all probably heard me at some point say, I say this often, we can do both. We can support our local artists and we can invite new artistic creative voices for all of our benefit. Creative community partnerships that will help drive local economic development and advance our arts organization's missions. And use the arts to address some of the most pressing issues that we're dealing with as a community today: diversity, COVID recovery, public discourse, public health, it's the year of public health, from the mayor's office, the environment, et cetera. The arts will help with all of these things. Linda, can I get one more slide? And as Chris said, we won't do all this work today, but this is an incredible, incredible beginning, so thank you all for being here. Some of the desired outcomes for today, again, from a very lofty point of view or high-level point of view, is an articulated vision, or I should say a draft articulated vision of what vibrant, diverse, inclusive, and sustainable arts and culture looks or feels like in Melrose. These are some of the prompt questions. Some lists of action items across topic areas that we might want to further research, prioritize, and develop. Sometimes we might not have an action step, but we might have, we need to look more into that. We need to see who else is doing this well, et cetera. Some strengthened personal and professional connections. I'll take this opportunity to say when lunchtime comes around, I encourage and challenge you all to sit next to someone you don't know. The establishment of a creative task force to continue to do this work. Here we are. Okay, I think that's it. And then yes.
Thank you very much, Jen. Okay, so framing, we're going to dive into the work. First, we're going to practice. It's like a yoga practice or a spiritual practice. We're going to practice how to create mutual vocabulary in the room. Many of us have gone to meetings or conferences, right? Or a board meeting or a student council meeting or the PTO. And there's somebody that's charismatic and has this big smile and they talk so much and they anchor the conversation and oh, now the meeting's over and I didn't get my idea out. I didn't get my point. And doggone it, I got so invested in defending my position against that person who anchored the conversation, I don't even remember what my initial idea was because we were working our butt off like Jen and I over here and like all the other volunteers, we can't remember our own name. That happens, right? Are you done with it? Okay, let's get beyond that. And in order to get to that place, we go to a primal place. So I'm going to break your heart a little bit. Many of you have begun to build a nice little construction and you're emotionally attached to it and you're having nostalgic feelings. Well, I'm an only child. I ain't got no social skills, so I'm going to make you take all of that apart. That's right. Whatever you built right in front of you, take it all apart, break it down. Oh, look at that. That's right, break it apart. Come on. Okay, 15 seconds. Break it all apart, tear it down. Why are we doing this? Well, anybody, if they'd approached me and said, well, I'm not going to get emotionally invested in playing with Lego, but look at you. Some of you are laughing, some of you are, some are like, oh, why am I doing this? There is an emotional response. We are invested in what we're doing. Now imagine how emotionally invested you are when you have an idea, it's inaccessible to somebody else's listening, and you're trying to push through, and then they dismantle it right in front of you. So we don't want to do that. We want to have constructive conversation, mutual understanding, creating a vocabulary within the same space, taking the abstract, making it an artifact so that we reference the idea, putting the cards on the table, building together, building the kind of arts community. Now, we're getting into metaphors and everything, but that's a part of human nature. We speak in metaphors. We started that way. We spoke about the landscape, and then you open that up a little bit more. We talked about mapping. You open up that a little bit more, and you think, okay, well, how do we GPS ourselves from one point in time to the destination of the arts, culture kind of community we want? We use metaphor and analogy. So here's the first instruction. Find a minifigure, and there are different kinds of minifigures. When you find a minifigure, please hold it in your hand so that I know that we have successfully found a minifigure. Raise it up, elevate it. Beautiful, we all got a minifigure. Wonderful. The next thing that you are going to do is find a plate. A Lego plate. So we have a little minifigure and we have a Lego plate of some sort. Now, depending upon the minifigure that you have, the minifigure can associate itself to a small plate or the larger Duplo minifigure can associate itself to the larger green plate, okay? So we have minifigures, we have plates. Does anyone need any assistance getting a minifigure or a plate? We're good, okay. Bucket right there. Now that you have found the minifigure in the plate, here is the first instruction, and there is a 30-second time limit associated with this instruction. Ooh, so you want to listen in now, right? Okay, let me get my timer set. Everybody's attending. That's good. I'm not going to leave you hanging. In the next 30 seconds, you take your plate. You're going to construct on top of your plate. The conclusion of your construction is placing the minifigure anywhere on the construction, okay? The minifigure is going to be your punctuation. That's the end of your sentence, the end of your phrase. The instruction is to build a tower. Whatever a tower is to you, a tower is to you. You can use any of the materials that are inside the kit in the box in front of you. Do not think in your heads, think with your hands. And you have 30 seconds beginning now. All righty, we're wrapping up. So although we have some competitive people here in the room, it's all good. That zest, that energy to compete and get to where you need to go, that's fine. We appreciate that energy. But what we're doing, again, is building mutual vocabulary. This is an exercise. This is a practice that'll get us toward the kind of visioning and clarity that we need for the rest of the morning and the afternoon. So look toward each other and express toward each other. Create space. Vocal expressive space and listening to express to each other what you have enjoyed or what you enjoy most about what you built. Go. Just talk to each other for about 2 minutes. Point out what you've enjoyed. Go. I got something that's going to blow your mind. I got something to show you that has always been in front of you, but you've never seen it before. Did you know that... Hold on, I got Parliament P-Funk playing in my pocket. Did you know that Lego plates, I didn't say Legos, because there ain't no such thing. I'm assisting you with your vocabulary. There's Lego plates, Lego bricks. I'm really orthodox about it, and I can't help it. I'm in this space. So Lego bricks, Lego plates can be affixed to each other. Now you're going to take home that idea that you can affix Lego plates to each other this way. Now hold on. Let's create space for listening and learning. The most important thing that you learn is a sensory experience right now. The sensory experience is this, all right? Is that feeling of an aha moment. Don't forget that. Remember that. That feeling where your little parts of your body just clenched. And, oh, you aspire to have that sensation for the rest of the afternoon from what is said from other people, but you got to create space to hear it. You feel me? Yeah. There's a possibility that somebody's going to say something and offer something that's going to give you that insight about what you've been trying to do, talk about, and have as an asset for yourself all along, but you never configured it differently. All right? So desire and entitle yourself to get that experience from somebody by shutting up every once in a while. All right? You're laughing because you know what I'm talking about. All right. Okay, so we're going to move on. So what we've done successfully is everybody can build. Everybody has a voice. Everybody can construct something, all right? And we already know that in our language, we can impose, project metaphor and analogy upon tangible things. You know, we can abstract things and use a metaphor, use an analogy, talk about Wall Street, stock market fell. Ain't nothing fell, you know, ain't nobody on the ground until they actually see how much they lost, then they fall. So the next thing we're going to do is then go to this place of storytelling, all right? Now you have all these Lego assets in front of you, all right? And these are constraints, you know? There's only so much you can do with these things. And that's very much like life. It's very much like the resources from bar foundations, from all the different institutions that we're associated with individuals. We have a lot of material, we have a lot of experience, and with those things come some constraints as well. So I'm going to introduce constraints so that we can get to the place of collective conversation, that we can yield some value and create some action items in the afternoon. Still with me? Yes. All right. The next thing you're going to do is take the assets, the Lego bricks plates in front of you. You do not have to configure everything on a plate, but you're going to respond to this question. You'll have 2 minutes to do it, all right? No thinking in the head, no planning, because that's not where the thinking is going to happen. It's going to happen in your hands. The next charge is build a representation of your typical Monday morning. Go. All righty, everyone. Yes, it is true that some of you are still in the midst of your build. That's okay, because this is a practice. We're creating a kind of context. We're creating vocabulary for mutual conversation, and we are creating space. That's good. Oh, it's okay. We're creating space. We're enthusiastic and we're passionate about things that we do, that we're emotionally connected to. And that's a wonderful thing. And we're practicing going to the abstract, to the concrete. And what we've done just now is we've gone to this enthusiastic space, gone with... Why is this? Speaking of the arts sector, should have hired a DJ. So we have built, everybody can build. Okay, and everybody can express themselves in the story, a story. So go around the table, highlight one feature. It's like, of all that I just built here, this part represents my Monday morning, kind of like you're filling out a Mad Libs. My Monday morning is fill in the blank, elevate what you've built, show everybody around. And I'm sure there's a lot to unpack there, but we're not going to unpack it totally. I'm not a clinician. All right? So we're going to begin that process now, sharing an aspect of what you built as a fill in the blank. My Monday morning is like, and then reference the model that you built. You'll begin that now, and I'm going to give you 10 minutes to do that. Begin now. Share at your table. Create space for everyone. So let's make sure that everyone has expressed themselves. Raise your hand if you've been able to express yourself. Have you shared what your typical Monday morning is like? All right? Now, I am not asking that question arbitrarily. I really mean it. Has everyone had the opportunity to express themselves? And if not, we make time. Diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. So let's try that again. Has everyone had the opportunity, to your satisfaction, given the constraints, to express themselves? Raise your hand. Now look around the room and notice. Keep your hands up if you've expressed your notice. Notice body language. Notice posture, make eye contact. It's necessary, it's critical that we do this for the engagement of the hard work that we do for the rest of the morning and the afternoon. Lower your hand now. Thank you. All right. You've been given an opportunity to get a snack. If you ain't, all right, sorry. I told you, I'm an only child. I ain't got no social skills. Disruption is my thing. All right, here's what we're going to do. You have one opportunity now to take your cell phone out and take a picture of your typical Monday morning. That will come back to haunt you. So please do that right now if you can. If you don't have a mobile phone or a way to take a picture, ask your peer next to you to take a picture in your behalf. Take pictures of some of the other models. Go ahead. Got 1 minute to do that. Now here comes some instruction. The work is about to begin. The practical application. We've gone abstract, we've gone practice, now we're going practical. We're going to see if actually we can employ and transfer some of the skills that we just warmed up to just now. So as you return to your tables, do that heartbreaking thing again. Deconstruct everything that you put together that represents your typical life Monday morning. 30 seconds to do that, please. Take it all apart. All right, here we go. The methodology that I've been credentialed to facilitate in sessions like this is based on cognitive psychology and constructionism. We build ideas out in space, and if we build ideas out in space, then we create realities within our own mind. So we can build out in space, and we can create new realities, new relationships in our mind, all right? And of all the things that are most connected to the things that make and create synapses in the brain are our hands. There are so many nerve endings associated with the hand, the touch, the fingertips, with the brain. So that's why we're using these other often neglected means to create meaning. Oh, by the way, I'm an American Sign Language interpreter. Kind of know what I'm talking about when it comes to brain-hand relationships. So with that in mind, the real hard work is going to begin, all right? We're going to go back to these particular content areas. Content area 1, I will read out loud just for the sake of accessibility, distance, visual perception in the room. Content area 1, arts everywhere. Content area 2, place. 3, access and engagement. 4, experiences. 5, creative economy. 6, support. And 7, dollar bill, y'all. Yeah, those are abstract. Those are broad. They have more facets than a good old-fashioned diamond. There are multiple meanings to it. We started this out by asking you to build a tower. Did any one of your towers look exactly like your neighbor? How the heck are you going to come to an agreement about what those mean? That's not why we're here. We're mining for those facets. We're trying to get all insight perspectives about some of these content areas. And the way we're going to do that is by using the exact same methodology that you've been trained in, but to respond to some very specific questions. At your table, there is a tent card, a little tabletop tent card, all right? And it has one of the words that I've referenced up here, one of those content areas, all right? Find that and make sure everybody is aware of what that topic area is, all right? Show it around, kind of like we're at the boxing match. Round 1, round 2, round 3, okay? You know what round you're in, and actually have someone who just actually held up your card vocalize what those words on the card is. Everybody do that now. Look at the card. Vocalize what's on the card. Go. All right. So we've perceived it. We've looked at it. We've read it. And we've vocalized it. We've consumed it in different ways. Wonderful. All right. So here's the challenge task. Here's what you're going to do. Also on your table, there are question prompt sheets that are associated with those content areas. Question prompt sheets. Can we discover those question prompt sheets? Can somebody from the table elevate the question prompt sheet that is at your table? Let's see that everybody's got one at your table. Has everybody got one at the table? In the back, do we have a question prompt sheet at the table? I got a thumbs up there. Question prompt, thumbs up, thumbs up. Okay, we all got it. So we're going to use the same methodology. I dare you to start thinking in your head. Don't get into your head. respond based upon that mutual vocabulary and listening and observation, right, that we've worked through this morning so far. You have those question prompts. The directive is to have one person read the question prompt as a modeling. Notice I'm not shouting like the Baptist preacher anymore. We're giving pause to allow consuming of the question, and then we're going to respond within 2 rapid minutes. You will construct your response to that prompt question so that you're putting your cards out on the table, that everyone has an artifact on the table that cannot be unseen. You don't want to leave the room or leave the space without making certain that you've perceived in as many ways as possible what another person's response to that content area question is. It's abstract. It's hard. That's why we call it Lego serious play. We're going to make you work. And it's not going to be cliche, not going to stay in the abstract, not going to stay in the metaphor. It's going to be as impactful and real and sensory is your reaction when I ask you to build your Monday morning, because these things are real. They're impactful for you. So I'm going to hush up for a little bit, all right? Everybody ready to go? Is there a question that needs clarifying? Please hustle up. Yes. Yes, in the blue. That's a good question. What we know is this, that as individuals, you can respond to whichever question resonates with you, okay? Because we know that by this process, every facet of opinion will be represented regardless when you get into the discussion section. Is that helpful? All right? So what you're going to do now is have a person read out the questions. The next thing you're going to do is then begin building your response. That's a 2-minute speed build, right? And then after the 2-minute speed build, then it's going to be upon you at your tables to model what I have been doing, what Jen has been doing, is facilitating, making sure listening happens, that everybody has the time and opportunity to respond to the question. Then it opens up even more in that we actually start responding in a vision way. What's the vision of what this arts trajectory is going to be about? We're visioning right now, okay? So begin now, pick a volunteer to read the questions. Go. So reflect on the conversation, reflect on the movement of the conversation that's happening at the table. There is another little asset at your table. Can anyone find this little yellow box, this little question mark box here? All right. This is a tool to assist us in some of the conversation. You can use it, you cannot, I mean, they're grown folks, but the idea is we have to put out in space, the elephant in the room, that sometimes individuals like myself can talk a lot. People are taking time to consume it. How do we make sure that we are using the constraints of the question and respond to the question? There's a question mark on here, so we're thinking about how we're responding to the prompt question and how are we kind of getting in the box. You know how we often talk about thinking outside the box? We're trying to get in actually the box, into these particular content areas and be very specific. So we're transitioning to another space here. One, making sure, breathe, has everyone that is at an idea represented at the table, have they represented themselves? Be intentional about that. Look, be honest. Did everyone represent their thought in response to the question? And the second thing is, use additional ways to scribe, archive what you've heard from the others. Everyone be accountable that way. And also represent what you've said, because we want to bring this all into a tangible place, you know, beyond the abstract into a practical. So we're actually talking about taking notes, and everyone collectively in the way that best suits your skills to take notes. Everybody's expressed themselves. We're taking notes, okay? Make sure we're getting right back in the box. Continue, have another 5 minutes to do so. Then we're going to start going into some group sharing, all right? Everybody's going to get a little bit of information about what's coming from the table. All right, keep going. 5 more minutes. Everybody participates. I learned that from my kids. Isn't it amazing what we can do when we just kind of get out of our way and observe our kids, and this is how they get each other's attention in the classroom. But we're grown folks, and there are still quite a few things we need to learn. I'm going to share 2 points. We're going to make sure that everyone has participated in the conversation. We're just doing a second check-in, all right? And then we're also going to make sure that we're doing some good scribing, and that may mean 2 minutes of silence, whether you use your phone to make some notes, a little sheet of paper to make some notes. Do that with the intention that what you're transcribing, archiving, all right, is a part of this aggregate bit of information that becomes a map, a roadmap for us, okay? This is the visioning space. Great. So here's the first point. My Uncle Joshua walked into the living room back in the 80s. My cousins and I were watching Spike Lee do the right thing. You know, we all had our do, you know, that little Gumby do thing on. We had these medallions, all gold-plated, nothing really gold, just bad, messing up your skin, you know, turning skin green and everything. But we knew everything. We'd read, you know, the biography of Malcolm X. We were 17 years old, and we were good to go, right? Uncle Joshua walked in. He was always carrying a little shot glass of Crown Royal, and he pivoted to the left, and he looked down at us condescendingly. He says, you know, boys, the civil rights movement was the worst thing that happened to me as a black man. We reacted, we got arrogant. We started quoting what we'd learned in grade school to him. And he paused just long enough for us to settle, for us to cognitively process, to refigure out how to express ourselves, because we didn't express ourselves optimally the first time. He gave us a minute. And he says, one day, there was no legislation, signs everywhere, colored here, whites only, drink from this fountain, drive through this neighborhood quick. Legislation goes up, all those signs are gone. I didn't know where I can go to get a bowl of soup without any spit in it. You see that feeling that you just had? Now think about the conversations that you're having and the aspirational conversations that you're having, that diversity, equity, and inclusion is supposed to be interwoven into these conversations as well. And are we defaulting to the biases and the habits of having these discussions during this discussion? So we're giving each other another chance to make sure that we're hitting these talking points, but also addressing, am I doing the default behavior? Am I telling the story, my typical Monday morning, so to speak, to address new aspirations that we don't know anything about with some of our old practices? Challenge yourself, question yourself. We'll give you another 2 minutes to make sure everybody's been represented. Then it segues into you identifying someone in your table to help share some of those salient points that are response to the question. Now, is it all going to happen today that every single point is going to happen? No, but that's why you've scribed, right? And then in the secondary sessions, when we go into the actionable space this afternoon, those things that you visioned at this part of the morning will inform those practical steps that we will transcribe and itemize and prioritize in the afternoon. We ain't gonna solve all the world's problems, but we're gonna make Melrose a little bit prettier. Ain't that right, Mayor? All right, go back into it, 2 minutes. All right, everyone. We have, Ms. Jen, how many tables do we have in the room? Jen? Question, how many tables do we have in the room? I'm so exhausted I can't even count. How many tables are there? There are 11 tables, okay? So we have to get through 11 insights at least 11 insights that are responses to the questions that you've had on the table. Now, we got some folks over here in the corner that are just downright righteous. They're going to put me out of a job. They are speaking and preaching and talking about very specific ways to address in a visioning way what needs to happen, the aspiration, all right? So I'm going to hush up, and I'm going to turn my attention to the table over in the corner. Come on, what's my sister's name? She's not going to say her name. What's her name? Mary Beth. Mary Beth, can you rise to the occasion, all right? Now, you will speak out loud, but for the sake of accessibility, I may, one, reiterate what you've said, like the bullet points, right? I'll go through that, all right? Everybody's documenting right now. It's not just what you documented at your table. Write down what you heard and perceived from other people, and I will also try to keep things going in terms of clarity and punctuality. All right, Mary Beth, what you got? Your table is support.
And we had a lot of conversation because we have someone who's new to Melrose and couldn't find information, but she got here via Instagram, and other people who are not very savvy on the computer or might not have as much access. So we talked about ways in which to support our vision, which would be like an overarching information regarding the arts. And
information is a key. Access to information. Some people have access it through different channels, yes?
So how can we support our vision to give everybody access and include the diversity of the community in terms of, you know, whether they have computer access, whether they're English speakers, whether they can see, whether they can hear.
Beautiful, beautiful. So it's anchored in information. So support at this table is associated with access to information and information dissemination. All right, so that's a bullet point. That's a headline. Let's keep it going. Thank you very much. All righty, I'm gonna popcorn this. All right, popcorn it. This table right here in the front. That's right. You got to be on point. You got to be ready with me. I ain't messing around. This table right here to my left. Who is at this table here? Who can talk about some of the things that you visioned for your content area? Let's go for it. It's okay. It's okay. Don't be shy. I'm going to call you out. Volunteer right over here. Beautiful. Round of applause. Round of applause. What's your name, sister? Sam? Okay, Sam, what you got? What's your table topic? And tell us what you got.
Our table topic is arts everywhere.
Arts everywhere, yep.
We talked about finding spaces in the community where we could find more access to art, both infrastructure and physical spaces, and also including art in building every day. So like walking down the street, you have access to it. There's walls with art, like you see it everywhere you go.
Beautiful. So that's a really concrete anchor. Arts in everywhere, and she didn't confine that to galleries, you know, that these branded spaces, but arts literally as you walk down the sidewalk. So it's physical, geographical space, and not confined to the brand of the arts. Thank you. More?
We also talked about like making it more diverse. They talked about and creating. And
we're all listening. We're all listening. Yep, we're all listening. You said making it more diverse. Yes.
Yeah, and creating spaces for everyone to contribute.
Okay, creating spaces for everyone to contribute. And frankly, that part is still broad, but we actually can kind of anchor ourselves down on physical space. So we tick that box. That's good. Okay, so we addressed that a little bit. Thank you very much. Let's keep moving on. I'm going to jump toward the center table. Y'all see who I'm looking at. Yeah, right. That table over there, somebody's going to volunteer and holler. Give me your name. Your name? My name is Carol. Carol, and what's your content area? Place. Go for it.
All right, place. We have a few themes. I think the first thing was like a lot of people mentioned just the vibe of coming in and a main street that was vibrant, full of really interesting businesses and arts and just like a sense where you walk in and say, I want to be here.
Okay.
Almost everyone mentioned diversity. And then when we talked about it more after you like prompted us to really think about it, we really were like, oh, yes, we all said it, what did we need? And when we go to particularly the arts events, sort of like, it's pretty much all white, even though the town is pretty white, but not as white as our arts events. So it's kind of
Oh, so calling out representation. So we walk into this space, we enter the space, we drive into Melrose, and there's a vibe, there's a buzz going on. But it's interesting when we talk about very specific events. That's different than just driving through town. There's an event, there's an invitation, there's a red carpet of some sort, some kind of community access channel. And does that space, that place, reflect what's happening when you're walking down the street, when you're driving through the neighborhood in terms of vibe? Does that capture a little bit? Would you like to add to it?
That captures most. I don't think it captures these point which were about like the connection in government, funders, artists, sort of missing something, but just like that expands everything out and draws people more in. So she's talking more about like the building of service structure.
Okay, so we have pods that aren't necessarily connected or not sustained in their connection. Institutional, government, artists as individuals who may be, LLC or what have you. So those connections seem to be a little siloed. Does that capture it a little bit? Okay, great. I'm going to jump over here in this space. Give me the name of a person who's going to shout out something and what's the content area and tell us about it. Yes.
Hi, I'm John Michael.
John Michael, yes. What you got, John?
Well, our table kind of all agreed that that collaboration and bringing all people into the art space is needed to build a stronger art community. Oh, I'm so sorry. Arts everywhere is our topic.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No. Good. We're doing great.
I think what we struggled with was how to do that a little bit, and is there an issue around there needing to be a common vocabulary about what art is and what art can do? We talked about whether there are language or idea barriers a little bit in making people feel more able to and accessible to the art. And then we talked a little bit about, as artists at the table, who is their art for? Is it for everybody? Is it for someone specifically? Does that add to or take away from the barrier?
Beautiful. So what I'm capturing from that, and this is my experience, but please, everybody, scribe for yourselves as to what you're taking away from it. I'm taking away definition and clarity, not constraining a definition, but looking at the diversity of the definition, because arts can be ambiguous. Also, there's this idea of, in terms of the arts, there was access to it. Language and idea barriers, so they're very specific. As the previous table had mentioned, we talk about diversity, but what are we talking about? Well, we go into this space, there's majority white people, and there's not a majority of white people, although significantly more white people in Melrose, and the math of it just isn't correlating, okay? So being that very specific, thank you very much. I'm going to go to all the way in the back and to my left. Topic, name, and what you got?
Yes. Hi, I'm Jason Webb. So the topic here is experiences.
Jason Webb, and the topic is experiences?
Experiences, yes.
Okay.
So we did cover some of the same territory as others, so I'm going to speak to some of the things that are different.
Beautiful.
Okay, so some of the things that we talked about that may not have been covered, we did talk about trying to broaden the engagement, but we also talked specifically about trying to figure out what those barriers to that would be. Is it economics? Is it representation? Is it language, communication? Building relationships was critical, but that takes a lot of time. We talked about things like reaching out to high school students, reaching out to adult education, coming up with programs to make people aware of some of the opportunities that are here in Melrose that they may not know about. We also talked about the economic support being critical, but trying to figure out what is it that's the thing that's not moving it forward. And then I think also prioritizing, because we can't do everything.
Gotcha. So there's prioritizing, but prioritizing what? There are some barriers that are keeping things not from moving, but what came up, what sounds like rose to the surface, is these specific spaces where we can investigate that question. What's the barrier to getting content, access, information to the high schools and some of the other places that were mentioned? So there's a key question with a specific target area.
It could be different groups, but I think we have to have a focus.
Got to have a focus. You start somewhere. Great. Kind of like the GPS map. Yeah. And that last bit was?
We talked a lot about some of the other ideas that have been talked about, like having an open space that's inviting, so that was...
Great, great. But this is good. We're putting push pins in the map. I'm going to go to the other side, that very far corner way in the back. Yes?
All right, so our topic was creative economy and Hannah. And we talked about a couple of different things, specifically the need to reconsider the systems for accessing the use of space that's owned by the town from the perspective of both a theater group and a high school student. In both cases, there are barriers to actually using, say, the high school for high school events, which seems weird. Yeah. And so, like, that's a very concrete problem that needs solving. Right. And then also, we spent a bunch of time imagining redeveloping an area of town with a specific intention of having spaces for performance, for maker space, gallery, kind of making a destination that feeds a lot of different areas of the arts and becomes kind of a community center, bookstore, very important aspect of this. So, thinking about how putting resources towards art opportunity development could actually also economically impact an area of town, and we were talking about Franklin Street specifically, but other, sort of floated different ideas.
Beautiful. So there are these specific spaces, high school space, geographical spaces, we're renaming streets, but there's this other visioning happening of, how do we actually create more access and engagement to those kind of spaces if we aspire to create them.
And actually build spaces that are not here at this point.
Okay. All right, actually getting your hands dirty. Beautiful, thank you, okay? We're right on that threshold of lunch, so we're going to push into some of these other these other responses. I think we can do that at the top of lunch, but I want to talk with my colleague Jen for a second, for 30 seconds, so that we can be responsive, make sure that everybody's being captured, but also get your food on. Okay, we're going to go through 5. Which table has not reported back? Raise your hand. Which table has not reported back? Okay, we got that one table. I need just a little bit more elevation. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a 5th back there. Okay, let's start right here at the front where the mayor is. Just calling you out. I mean, you're there, so.
Yay! My name's Eileen Christensen, and we talked about support. Okay. So we were talking about mechanisms for networking, leadership, how to leverage the infrastructure in Melrose to help out artists. So the problems that we have are connecting people up so that we're able to use people with multiple disciplines and talents to get the word out, to be able to get people in seats. Artists aren't necessarily publicists or PR people. Artists don't necessarily know how to navigate red tape. As they're moving through the city, or where to go, or if they're new artists in town, who do I talk to get up and running? So we talked about those 2 things. We also talked about fuel for artists beyond money and grants. This idea of maybe events coordination and too many notes. Inclusion, not just the curation of art, but expanding the pool, making sure that there's a wider net of people who are being touched by the arts and a wider net of artists that are included.
Okay. So I'm going to pause right there. There's wonderful notes, and you have a lot scribed there, right? Which is great, okay? Key points, leadership in terms of support, leadership. So it's not just about who's pushing from behind, but actually beacon type of things. And also there are resources in terms of people who just don't have the skills or capacity to do all the business part of bringing the arts to the city. That's a visioning thing that we need. Okay, who else has not gone? Boom, there's a hand over there. Yes, go for it. And your topic and name.
Our topic is creative economy. My name is Merida.
Thank you.
So what we most get people talking more. I mean, so one of the things that we thought would be cool would be to have something like QR codes, so that if you were at one event in Melrose and you were looking for a place to eat, you could use a QR code to identify different restaurants in town. Another thing we talked about is a vending machine of kindness, so having a vending machine downtown that you could put money into and get different activities that you could do throughout town from that vending machine. We talked about a refrigerator that you could, we did kind of veer into the kindness stuff. Who knows why? Having a refrigerator downtown, but then the thing that we also talked about showcasing hometown heroes. So like, for example, Porch Fest is something that we have in town that's really successful. If we profile people who are involved in Porch Fest, it might get other people interested in getting involved, or really just highlight their kindness in town.
I'm going to pause there for a second. We have those notes captured? Yes? Yes. Okay, great. We're going to circle back to those when we're able to gather them. I don't want to prevent us from getting lunch, because also there are dietary needs for people in the room. Who else has not gone yet? Okay, we have that one table there, and what else? So there are 3 tables that have not gone. Okay, we're going to move you in the space of the time of the day. Let's get our eat on.
Also, everybody, bear with us. Sit tight for 1 second. There's one more thing that we'd like to do. This is an important acknowledgement. I'd like to invite Maggie. Here we go.
Again, all these tall people. Okay. Wow, what a morning, right? I can feel the creative vibes in the room. So thank you for being part of it. I'm really pleased to take this opportunity now to honor a Melrose leader, a volunteer, and a friend, Nancy Kakura, right there. All right, bear with me, okay, because I made this concise, but Nancy's done a lot of service, okay? She's a journalist, she's a writer, editor, world traveler, mother, grandmother, spouse. I could spend 10 minutes on that thread alone. But for today, I'm going to focus on Nancy's service and leadership in the creative arts community. She and her husband, Phil, moved to Melrose in 1975, and since then, Nancy has made quite the imprint on the community. Okay, get ready, be inspired. Volunteer founder and director of POW, which was the program for afternoon learning in the 80s and 90s, which offered programming for the community at a time when there was none. No ed stations, none, for young students. And they would have classes that ranged from cooking to art to jump rope to cartooning to baseball card collecting to languages. That was Nancy. Member of the Melrose Human Rights Coalition, founding board member of MMTV, member of the Melrose Cultural Council, current trustee of the Melrose Public Library, founding member and publicist for the Mayor's Art Festival, which was the predecessor of the current Melrose Arts Festival, founding board member and publicist for Melrose Youth Ballet Nutcracker, founder of Melrose Jazz Fest, founding board member of the Melrose Messina Fund for the Arts, current member and past president of the Temple Bath Shalom, and current member of the Melrose Rotary, and was the producer of the fundraiser Stars Over Melrose, a citywide talent show. Nancy wanted me to make sure that besides what I've said, she's now retired and no longer doing these things, okay? So, I find Nancy's service so inspiring, and that we could all aspire to serve our community in such a way. I'd like to now hand it over to our dear elected officials who have come here today. We have our Senator Jason Lewis, Representative Kate Gibber, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Lipper Garbini, I was practicing too, and I voted for you. And Mayor Paul Broder. Senator, Representative.
So many people gathered today collaborating on how to advance the arts here in Melrose. You know, a vibrant arts and culture scene enriches the soul. It is great for the quality of life. It strengthens the community, and as you've been discussing, it's also a great driver of local economic development and revitalization. We know that the past couple years have been devastating for our arts and culture. Obviously, no live performances. We have worked hard at the state and federal level to try to provide, recovery funds and relief funds and support, but we know that a lot more is going to be needed as we continue to recover. And I know Representative Lippic-Garabedian and I really can speak on behalf of all of our colleagues in the state legislature, are very committed to supporting the Massachusetts Cultural Council with as much funding as we can provide. And of course, they then fund the Melrose Cultural Council and directly other arts and cultural institutions. So that, you can be assured, is going to be a high priority for us coming out of this pandemic and continuing to recover. And we look forward to partnering with all of you. Nobody, of course, epitomizes the value and the richness and the importance to our community of arts and culture more than Nancy Kakura. So I'm just delighted to have been able to stop by and share a special citation from the Massachusetts Senate in recognition of Nancy's lifetime contributions.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's so nice to be with you and be inspired by the work that you're leading on and collaborating on. And what a pleasure to get to recognize Nancy in person, listening to all the many ways that you have made Melrose such a wonderful place to live. I can feel immediate connection to them. I have kids in an after-school program. We patronize the library weekly. The arts are such an inspiring part of living here, and with a community like this and your leadership, it's making a real difference. So I want to thank you for all the work that you've done for Melrose. Please don't completely retire. We still need you. And I'm here, obviously, to present as well a citation from the House of Representatives, thanking you for your commitment to the arts of Melrose and all the work that you're doing for us. Thank you.
So I want you to know, in the kind of the run-up to this, Jen came over to me and said, "We need this to be really quick," and had this look of like fear carved into her face. I will do my best. I guess I would say, you hear all those accomplishments, and I would say, thank God you never ran for mayor, because I would not have a job right now, that is for sure. I get to do a lot of really great things in this job, and one of the great things I get to do is ask people to help. And there are certain people, a lot of y'all are in this room, that don't even consider saying no. And that's really awesome, because some of you might think, like, this is new and it's a really important step, but I will tell you, we wouldn't be doing this if Nancy hadn't been doing the work she's been doing for, well, in Melrose since the 70s. And that's really, I like to think, because I got here a little bit before you, maybe that was why you came. I suspect that's not the case. But I am here to tell y'all that never in the history of the city have we given a key to the city for anything related to arts and culture. And so for the first time ever in the, depending on how you count it, the 1850 or 1900, I am delighted to tell you, what you already know is that the first, and perhaps only, I suspect not because of all the good energy in the room, but the first arts and culture key to the city is presented to Nancy Kakura in recognition of her consistent and tireless commitment to the Melrose arts and culture community, presented by me on behalf of a very grateful community.
Action items, identify low-hanging fruit, the most doable, that's a first step. And then the T's. On this document, we use the word team, but what's a team? We're thinking New England sports, We think about all these different roles on a football team, baseball team, basketball team. So we're about that. We're more about roles. We're not trying to identify the Moses, the Larry Bird, the person who's just received the key to the city as an arts administrator. We're not trying to identify a person by name. We're trying to identify what are the tasks that we need to identify to complete the action items that we're identifying, and what are the talents, what are the skills needed to complete a task. If I'm a farmer, I gotta know a little bit about agriculture, and I need some tools. Doesn't matter the name of the farmer. Everybody feeling me so far? Is there any clarity about that, what we're looking for? Okay, gonna just review it one more time. We're a little beyond the visioning stage. We're moving into identifying the action items related to the vision, what needs to be done. You begin to go there a little early on. You actually name some specific geographical places, institutions, and into it. That's great. What are the first steps, the most doable, and then what are the talents and tasks associated with getting those action items done? And it is on the screen. You don't need Lego because you're all grown-ups, but you know, if you want to sketch or doodle on your sheets of paper as you're moving into that part of this conversation, that's fine. Jen, anything addition to add to that? I mean, we're really about you going into these workspaces based upon this frame, past the vision, what are the action items associated with the vision points that you discussed, first steps, and talents and tasks, perhaps even referring to some of the notes that you made early on. Perhaps the scribe or whoever was taking notes might be able to refresh that conversation a little bit. Jen, anything else to add in terms of detail, action items? No? Okay, none I can think of. All right, people, move back into your conversations, okay? Give yourselves a round of applause. So, was that turkey or chicken? It was chicken because I'm feeling it. You know that. You know how that after that, you know, the holiday, you eat your little bird and you start to feel full, a little bit of weight in the stomach. So here's the point. We only have enough brain energy to share out, right? We only probably have enough brain energy to consume a few points, a few doable points. I know you've taken copious notes. We're going to collect those notes. We're also going to pursue you, yes. Yeah. Well, now they're all different ways. They're all different ways. You know, they're scanning, copying. You know, we'll do all these things. So, but there's going to be a collection. We want that information. We want that data. But in terms of what we can consume, we can't consume the entire page, right? I just don't have it in the brain. So, we're going to share out same model of sharing that we did this morning. We'll try to be succinct, leaving a little bit of brain width, a little bit of bandwidth to. I realize what I can do. I realize what is doable. I don't have to be a Dr. King, a Sojourner Truth, or a Trailblazer to make all of the visioning happen, but there are some doable things. Example, and this is how you can possibly frame your share back. Here's the model. A question at one group was talking about, well, access to grants. There's a lot of grant money out there. Nobody's applying for them. Why? Perhaps it's the vocabulary associated with it and the intimidation factor. One comment was compliance alone intimidates people in terms of the grant application process, let alone I'm not a grant writer, I'm an artist, I'm trying to do my arts thing, right? But then the person behind the clearinghouse who wants to issue the grant, the intention is simply, we just want you to ask. We just, just ask. So the doable action, and here's the succinct point that you can model in your sharing out. The succinct action at our table, we figured out that we can actually just change some of the vocabulary in our marketing. Grant eligibility for XYZ, just ask. Now you see that little laughter? That's that same sensation you had this morning. So I'm gonna shut up and I'm gonna start calling people out by table. Let's have some share back right now. What findings, some action items, some of that team tasks or tasks and skills associated with some of these action items. I'm gonna go start way in the back to my right far corner. A name, your table topic, and some of those action items. We'll wait. Pressure makes people volunteer real quick.
Okay, pretty simple. It's pretty simple. I think what we've ironed out and figured out in our conversation about creative economy is the thing that Melrose can do to support the arts is actually just to support the arts. Like, organizations to use space, for example, actually giving the space.
Okay, so there's a roadblock in the support. Okay,
yeah.
So
yeah,
action
like one
items.
story we just heard was the high school band having to apply for a grant from the cultural council to actually use the Memorial Hall, which for $900 for a 5-hour concert, which is just like a little bit too many. Like, why?
Simplify.
Simplify. Yeah.
So one of the ways we can support is simplify. Sometimes we actually try to set up so many more steps. We're going to give you so more resources. Maybe we don't need more. We need simple. Thank you. So I'm going to holler back to the side on the left, my left, in the zone of the MMTV folks. Hey, good to see y'all. Yes, Jason Webb?
Yes, Jason Webb. So just want to, I'll give one idea because I know we're kind of trying to go around. So one of the ideas that we came up with was just having a regular meeting venue for people to get together, kind of like this, but it could be kind of informal, but just to kind of keep the conversation going. People could come with things that they need, projects that they're working on, try to connect people.
Regular meeting venue. It goes back to the question, well, how do we even set this up? Who knew who? You know, that's the actual item. So regular meeting venues. Simplicity, regular meeting venues. I'm going to go right up here to the front where my kids are misbehaving. I love you, baby. I love you. I love you. Hey, you know daddy's going to get spanked when you get home. Go ahead.
So, you stole our meeting idea.
Hey, redundancy is a pat on the back. Go for it.
All right, so the other big idea that we were talking about is creating one-stop shopping.
Okay.
For events, artists pages, you know, electronic, but also moving it into the meetup space.
Give me some hands waving if that's resonating. Okay, all right. So one-stop shopping, one-stop shopping. We're kind of putting out constitutional vocabulary. There are some very specific details. So simplicity, one-stop shopping, gathering place. Let's keep on going. I'm going to go to my front area here to the left.
Okay, so a lot of our conversation today has been about who's not in the room. And I know it's serious to being talked about this too, and it's a question, strict heads. And this action step I'm super psyched about. So go to the people doing the work in Melrose that exists now. Friends of METCO, EPIC, CPAC, Racial Justice Community Coalition. Identify arts ambassadors maybe it's from the Cultural Council and the Messina, and send those people to their meetings and listen to what's going on and help pull the ideas so we can start saying, hey, that's a great idea, it just happened. That should be a grant to the Messina Fund. That's fundable. So get those, go to the people doing the work. Don't expect them to come.
Flip the vocabulary. Outreach is about getting out of your house, getting out of your own seat and going to. Thank you so much. Simplicity, support, regular spaces or venues, and actually going out, going to the people. What else we got in the room? I'm going to go to the table right in front of me, the experiences friends. What do you got to say here?
All right.
And your name?
My name is Krista.
Krista.
Krista, like short for Priscilla.
Krista. Okay, got it. Krista. With a P. I rely so much on that. Thank you.
No problem. So, I guess we talked about creating spaces that are accessible and also extending an invitation to these spaces. Because you can create a space all you want, but if you're not extending an invitation,
then what's the use of the space, you know? And also making sure to invite different voices to these spaces, because if you keep inviting the same people into the same spaces, then you get the same, kind of the same answers over time and nothing like that.
Beautiful. So the build it and they will come, we need to grow beyond that. It's a cliche, you know, that we kind of default to. That's not necessarily the case. So thank you. Build it, create an invitation, and not just the same people. And we need to figure out, see, there's a little dangling Chad there. How do you figure out who hasn't come? That's an action item. All right. Let's say, I'm going to go right into the center, in the, actually in the back. I see a black shirt, white mask, raising it. Yeah, I'm looking at you. Yes. There you go.
I'm Sally, and we hit upon many of the comments that have already been said. We were trying, our vision was to increase community sharing and interaction through a creative economy through all communities. And one idea that came up in our previous discussion was a people library. Who can do what for who? And something like that. And also sharing ideas, a somehow website that will connect people that way.
Okay, sharing ideas, people library.
People library. That came up. We are looking for sort of, and need the research of how other communities have established sort of a theater, and we were looking at doing film, like film festivals and other sort of different media, arts media.
Okay, I'm going to pause you there. This is great, so we're going into the details. That's great that we have the details. That actually inspires us because we all have those assets. Doing the research, notice how that connects to some of what was going on over here. Yeah. Research, you got to go to the spaces. Be in those spaces where people are actually doing that. Okay, because that might be some of the labor. Sometimes we're kind of daunted. I don't want to join a committee. Well, just go to an event. Learn something, make yourself a little bit better. So thank you for that. I'm going to go right to the center table here. What you got?
So we talked about the need for coordination among the various Melrose arts organizations and activities. We talked about it in terms of like a person, a staff person, could be in an organization. We need to draft a job description, identify the homes for this function, and identify the...
Okay. So, coordination, roles, salary, I mean, that's the person that's dedicated to this idea. What are the tasks associated to that job description, identifying that, and actually doing the nitty-gritty, you know, how to finance that? Like, what does it cost? What's the value of that position? So that's very specific, very doable. Ooh, doable? I don't know if it's doable. I mean, that's kind of bureaucratic, but it's a need, and we got to start somewhere. Thank you for that. I'm going to go right over in this space over here. I'm gesturing a little bit to my left. I see a hand up. Yeah, that's you.
Hi, Demi. I'm going to piggyback on what Gina just said because we are the money table.
Money table. Let's listen to the money people.
Because we all know that Melrose runs on volunteers in this cultural scene. So we would like a paid professional staff person who's dedicated to arts and culture to coordinate.
That's the sound of priorities, people.
To bridge the gaps between all the different groups, provide onboarding support, and be a catalyst to energize this creative economy, bring more money in, create that facility.
So it sounds like 2 votes for that staff position, and then there's a coordination a part of that. That's great. In order to get to that place, we have to figure out, well, what's the timeline, you know? Timeline, we've got to do some research before, and we have to simplify some of the infrastructure so that we're not putting a person in a job, in a role that's set up for failure, because we have to simplify the infrastructure. So as you're hearing all of these things, think about how they're associated with each other, like Lego. What's the base point? And what are we building upon? All right? Let's see.
Christopher, can I go?
Yes, absolutely. See? Making myself obsolete. Go ahead.
I'm Cantaloupe. And we, I wanted to go because we have the same basic thing. Although our first line says, talk to mayor. We know that there is a city events page, and we were thinking that maybe we could have an arts newsletter for that, in that space specific for the arts, and that's one thing. And then we said an arts coordinator to oversee all the arts information, about information funding, and be able to get that out. And then also some kind of a community calendar. And we were talking about Facebook, Instagram, and the QR codes. And we also talked about bulletin boards, because one of our people at our table said she got a lot of information off bulletin boards.
So multiple ways to access information, but also there are very other doable things, setting some dedicated space for this kind of content area in the mayor's space.
And then one more quick thing, again for Mr. Mayor, we were talking about some cities dedicate 1% of their budget to the arts. And that could be used to pay the arts coordinator or something of that sort.
Doable action. So when we're talking about the research, that's some expert knowledge right there in the room. I don't know what her role, her day-to-day job is, but is the idea valuable? Is the idea valuable? Do that for each other. Okay. Who have I not attended to in terms of the table? Oh, the mayor. Yeah, save it. I didn't say saving the best for last, but I'm saving it. Okay, so over here.
Well, we wanted a coordinator, but we want to have a start. The city could put an arts thing on the website. Let it get updated, not just put on there. And it would have things like, oh, here's the packet for what you need to do for publicity. Here's the arts calendar, so these events are all happening. So there would be, here's where you go for grants, so that there's a central site where people can get concrete information.
So there's a lot of content out there, but the usability of it, the actual active use, updating those kind of functional things, great, doable. And who else, before I go to the mayor's table? When I say the mayor, I'm actually referring to my youngest, because he works every day. Who has not? Who has not? Okay, let's hear it.
We already won.
Oh, you did?
One-stop shopping.
Oh, right, that's right. One-stop shopping. Yeah, I thought over here, yes.
I'm Bruce Kurtz, musician. We used to have the Melrose Jazz Festival, and I've been working with Nancy on that. And we didn't have it for a while now, but the acoustics in Memorial Hall. Is there any way that some funds could be appropriated through a grant perhaps, to make concerts audible in there for anything besides the symphony?
Okay.
Put a drum set in there, forget it. It's over.
All right.
So it doesn't have to ruin the historical value of the building.
That's right.
It could just be these, like now they have these screens that people use to avoid spreading COVID.
Yeah,
At
yeah.
music school, right? They could put up those with some cloths and whatnot to dampen the echo that's happening there.
So there's some expert lived experience that speaks to one of our headlines, and we're going to start transitioning it out. Again, this is a big pat on the back, this is a big hand, jazz hands, segue. The idea of diversifying experiences, just the simple idea of designing space that draws different kinds of topical audiences, concert to jazz, and then that alone, by putting up some partitions that we've already invested into, changes the demographic. Thank you so much for engaging and tolerating with me and allowing me to be here. My wife said, okay, I gotta make sure he's working. I'm working, baby. So thank you so much. I'm gonna segue this over to Jen for some of our wrap-up actions.
COVID, we've all been saved. Thank you so much, Chris. This was such a great day. Yeah, thank you. So I love all the ideas we've heard here. There we go. So going back to a lot of what we heard is like convening the arts community, right? Formalizing, if you go back to that sort of high-level mission, formalizing an arts and cultural sector where we can do this work together. So we've already succeeded in some of these first steps, right? We're all here together. This was amazing. Thank you all for coming. You are the people with the ideas. We will distill everything that you've brought here to us today, and we'll share it among ourselves. You know, we'll distill it, we'll share it, find ways to get it out there. We will continue to invite new people. There were people that said they couldn't be here today. We will provide access through later, Zoom meetings and getting people's ideas and feedback. The work is not done. There was no way we could do this in 4 hours. I admire your stamina, but we will continue to convene. We will start doing some of the things that you've all asked us to do here today, set priorities, etc. So it will take a bit of time, but we will keep the momentum going, and we'll keep doing this work. To wrap up, a couple things. If you really, we've all invited you, we've asked you all to come here today, everybody's come together. If you do want to continue to meet, I know some people, maybe they're like, that's it, I've had enough. We have all your email addresses and those of all the rest of our assets, but we can't spam everybody. So if there's another sheet, I'm sorry to keep making you sign up for stuff, but there are more sheets as you leave. If you want to continue to be part of whatever this is going to be, a task force, these various meetings, and maybe there's groups or buckets, we're not sure yet. Let us know, and we'll keep doing this. We'll keep getting together. I'll meet with anybody anytime. Yeah, cocktails. There's also, when I went up there, I didn't even realize how much information. A lot of people brought flyers and pamphlets, and there's information about the way the city is supporting Ukraine. There's a bunch of stuff that people brought, so thank you for doing that. I didn't even think of that. So grab that on your way out. So let's sort of wrap this up so you can all go home. We'll do sort of our jazz hands today. How many, actually I want to do one more thing. Thank you, Sam Hammer, for this idea. Similar to the things that you've seen on the table, if you didn't bring something, 1 minute, raise your hand. If you are an organization currently looking or seeking funding, raise your jazz hands. Okay. If you are someone if you are part of a group or an organization who is able to provide funds in whatever cycle it is, raise your hand. Okay, so here's the people with the money. Cool. We are at 2 o'clock, so quick last jazz hands if you met someone new today. Yeah, oh my God, look at the connections that we've made. Jazz hands if you learned some we're inspired by some new ideas. And jazz hands if we're gonna keep meeting like this and we're inspired and we're gonna form a fabulous arts and cultural sector that is the envy of everybody else. Yay! Thank you all so